Tonight, before you go to sleep, a rabbi asked his student to do something strange, something that looked like superstition, something that, to any rational person, looked like complete madness. He said, "Take 7 drops of olive oil and place them in your left shoe." The student laughed. He thought the old man had finally lost his mind. But 3 months later, that same student came back to the rabbi with tears in his eyes. His relationships had healed. His mornings felt different. His mind was clearer. And he had only one question: what was in the oil? Welcome to Sacred Lessons, where ancient Jewish wisdom meets modern life. Here, we explore timeless teachings from the Torah, Talmud, and Jewish tradition that bring real meaning and practical guidance to your everyday challenges. If you're ready to learn ancient wisdom that actually works in modern life, subscribe to Sacred Lessons right now, because what we're about to unpack will stay with you long after this video ends. The story of that student is not a fairy tale. It is a teaching. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what the rabbi was really asking him to do, and why this ancient practice carries more power for modern life than anything you will find in any self-help book on the shelf today. Let's begin where all great Jewish teachings begin, with a symbol. In the ancient world, olive oil was not a cooking ingredient. It was light itself. The menorah, the sacred 7-branched candelabrum that stood at the heart of the temple in Jerusalem, could only be lit with one specific kind of oil. The Torah calls it shemen zayit zach, pure beaten olive oil. Not just any olive oil, oil pressed slowly and carefully, without excessive heat or force. And the rabbis of the Talmud noticed something extraordinary about this process. To release the purest oil, the olive must first be crushed. The very thing that produces light requires pressure. My grandfather used to say something I didn't fully understand until I was much older. He would sit at the kitchen table after a long, hard day, look at his worn and weathered hands, and say quietly to no one in particular, "The olive doesn't choose when it gets pressed, but you always choose what you release." He wasn't talking about cooking, he was talking about life. Every time the world pressed him, through loss, through failure, through grief that never fully left, he made a deliberate choice about what came out of him: bitterness or light, resentment or wisdom. And that choice, repeated consistently over decades, was what made him the man he was. The olive oil ritual is not about the oil. It never was. It's about understanding that pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is your teacher. The question is never whether life will press you. The question is what you will release when it does. Now let's talk about the number 7. Because nothing in Jewish tradition is accidental, and 7 is not a random number. 7 is the architecture of reality in Jewish thought. 7 days of creation, 7 years of the Shemitah, the sabbatical year, when the land rests and debts are forgiven. 7 weeks of the Omer, counting from liberation to revelation. The Zohar, the central text of Jewish mysticism, describes 7 as the number of completeness, a full cycle that closes, allowing something entirely new to begin. When the rabbi instructed his student to use 7 drops, he was not being poetic. He was invoking the Jewish understanding of intentional completion. This brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in all of Jewish tradition: kavanah. It means intention, directed, conscious, purposeful awareness behind every action. The Talmud teaches that a mitzvah performed without kavanah is like a body without a soul. An action without awareness accomplishes almost nothing. But an action performed with full intention, even a small, quiet action done in the dark before sleep, can change the entire direction of a life. The ritual of placing 7 drops of oil in a shoe is, at its core, a physical act of kavanah. It is a gesture designed to force a moment of intentional pause before sleep. Modern research confirms what the sages understood millennia ago. Deliberate rituals of closure at the end of the day reduce anxiety, improve sleep quality, and create greater clarity and focus the following morning. The rabbis had a name for this nightly practice: Heshbon HaNefesh, an accounting of the soul. Not an audit of your bank account, an honest audit of your inner life. I once knew a woman, a teacher, a mother of 4, who went through the most devastating year of her life. She lost her job, her marriage nearly collapsed, and she told me she felt like she was quietly drowning inside her own home. A rabbi she deeply respected gave her one instruction: every night before sleep, perform one small, intentional act with your hands and ask yourself a single, honest question. She started there. Just one question, just one deliberate gesture. And that single habit became the thread she followed back to herself. That is the power of Kavanah. That is what the ritual of 7 drops was always teaching. If this teaching is resonating with you right now, drop a comment below sharing your biggest takeaway, because your words might be exactly what someone else in this community needs to read today. Now we need to talk about the left shoe, because this is where the teaching becomes quietly revolutionary. In Jewish law, specifically in the Shulchan Aruch, the authoritative code of Jewish law, there is a precise order for putting on your shoes. Right shoe first, then left. But the left shoe is tied first. The sages debated this in careful detail, and what they revealed was a sophisticated inner map of the human soul. In Kabbalistic thought, the right side corresponds to chesed, loving kindness, openness, the energy that flows outward into the world. The left side corresponds to gevura, strength, discipline, the energy that contains, that holds, that carries what is kept within. To put on the right shoe first is to honor what you give to the world. To tie the left first is to honor what you carry inside yourself. The left shoe is the shoe of your inner life, of your private struggles, of the battles no one witnessed, of the grief you swallowed before walking back into a room full of people who needed you to be fine, of the hope you were too afraid to say out loud. When the rabbi said to place the oil in the left shoe, he was saying something precise and deliberate. Go to the place you usually ignore. Go to your gevura. Go to the part of yourself that holds everything you never show anyone. And there, in that hidden interior space, bring light. This is the moment that transformed the student, not the oil. The act of finally turning toward himself instead of away from himself. Think about how many nights you have fallen asleep without doing that, without once acknowledging the weight you carried silently through the day. And this leads us to the most important truth of this entire teaching. The Musar movement, a Jewish ethical tradition developed in the 19th century, teaches that genuine character transformation does not happen in grand moments of sudden revelation. It happens in small, repeated, intentional acts. One brick at a time, one night at a time, one honest question at a time. The concept behind this is called tikkun, repair. We speak often of tikkun olam, repairing the world. But the masters of Musar always insisted it must begin with tikkun hanefesh, repairing the soul. You cannot bring light into the world from a menorah you have never lit. And you cannot light your menorah if you never stop long enough to tend to it. Tonight, you do not need olive oil. You need 7 seconds. 7 intentional seconds before you close your eyes. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I carry today that I need to put down right now? What did I hold back that deserved to be released? And who do I choose to be when I wake up tomorrow? That is the ritual. That is the cheshbon hanefesh. That is the practice the rabbi handed his student. Not a superstition wrapped in mysticism, but a structure. A nightly architecture of self-awareness that, practiced with consistency, rebuilds a human being from the inside out. The student came back 3 months later with tears in his eyes and asked, "What was in the oil?" And the rabbi smiled and answered simply, "Nothing. Everything was already in you. The oil just made you stop long enough to find it." The olive does not choose when it is pressed, but every single night, you choose what you release. That choice, made quietly in the dark before sleep, when no one is watching and no one is keeping score, is the most powerful and most underestimated decision of your day. It costs you nothing but a single moment of honesty, and it gives you back everything. Start making it tonight. If this lesson added real value to your day, show some love with a like, and join our Sacred Lessons community by subscribing for weekly wisdom. Ancient teachings delivered with clarity and honesty. Real, grounded transformation rooted in thousands of years of authentic Jewish thought and practice. Every single week, right here.